You know who it is. It is Collegiate Star League, and it's myself, Zeta. Unfortunately, my good friend Kyle Corvus Crow not actually here to introduce us tonight. I'm going to have to be taking that over, but we have one of the world's first and foremost e-girl support mains in to fill us in on how the game should be played. It's LOL Meowing Cat. Meowing Cat, how are you doing this fine Tuesday night, I
I'm
should say?
doing, yeah, pretty decent. Getting ready for some playoff games over here. Thanks for bringing me in at the hype times. And I'm ready to see some competitive League of Legends.
All right, competitive League of Legends. We do have that, in fact. If you want to believe that, we've got some competitive League of Legends. This is Columbia College's JV team, the CC Cougars Silver versus McMaster. And of course, that means we got to take a look at Columbia College's fall record. They went 5-1 in their groups, only dropped one series and an extra game on top of that. Then their spring record, after not making it in, 4-0. And now they are into the playoffs. Of course, this is the round of 64 of playoffs. Round of 128, they took down UVIC Vikes 2-0, and now they're going to look to take on a little bit tougher competition. CC, of course, known for their League of Legends team, but this is JV. Stuff starts to get a little bit weird down and around here. So we'll see their competitors. Introducing McGill University Banana LLC, limited licensed corporation, all based on your favorite potassium fruit. 6-0 fall record. Their highest placing was the round of 16, where they went out to the University of Manitoba in the Winter Invitational. They did not have to play the spring season, so their only spring play has been the round of 128. Cal Poly SLO Green, taking them down 2-0 as well. Now into the round of 64. Of course, both of these teams undefeated. That does happen a lot. 2-0 teams coming up against each other into the next round. Round of 32, generally where you'll see like the really competitive stuff start happening, but this is a pretty hype matchup, I would say, right? Columbia College, a very storied name in League of Legends. McGill not dropping a game yet, right? This is going to be their first chance to do so. We'll see who comes out on top when we get into the draft phase, but League of Legends has been changing a bit, and I kind of want you to talk me through some of those, really big changes, right? The bot lane's been shifting slightly, the meta definitely changing. We've seen some really slow games out of professional teams. Where do you think it's heading right now?
So the meta right now has a lot of variety to it. There's actually just a lot of options everywhere we go. For bot lane, ADC itemization, bringing the crit back means that there's a lot more variety down there. In the mid lane, you can make a lot of things work. You can make an assassin work. You can make a mage work. We have been seeing a lot more mages popping up with those melee champions kind of getting shoved out. And then up in the top lane, we are seeing a lot of split pushers. We're seeing some decent tanks up there. And in the jungle has been hurt the most, I would say. But because of a lot of those powerful junglers kind of getting shifted down in priority, it has opened up a lot more junglers. And so overall, you can have a lot of kind of variety within your champion pool where you can have a tank in the jungle or top lane or a carry in one of those lanes, or you could have some kind of safe supportive mid laner or a much more damage heavy oriented one, while you could have an early game focused bot lane or a much later game with a scaling kind of crit AD carry. So there's just a lot of variety, and it allows these teams to kind of play for, let's say, one team is really good at the early game, but one team prefers a much later macro game. It allows the drafts to kind of vary a lot depending on what these two teams prefer.
Yeah, and as we get into that draft, we are going to be expecting, I would say, some innovation, right? That's the real key here, I think, is innovation. If you bring out the new stuff, you bring out stuff that's, never before been seen, you're going to have a fantastic time, of course, because how are people going to counter it, right? Besides scrim leaks, there's no way in heck they should ever know about any of this stuff coming out. So far, though, relatively standard in the ban phase. They're going to take Thresh out. They're going to look, probably remove, I would say, a jungler. No, going for the Xerath. So they were a little bit worried about the mid lane potentially getting poked out.
And yeah, those mid lane mages have been popping up a lot in priority. The Xerath, not too popular, but in the hands of a competent player is extremely scary. So it makes sense to have it banned out. And also, just the Thresh being such a common pick for support, extremely high priority, as well as just so much versatility with that pick, it makes sense to kind of take it off the tables.
Yeah, to remove the Thresh, it's always a smart move, I would say. You get something that's super, super oppressive in lane. It does great into so many matchups. It has so many good things about it. And just get it out of the way. Force them to play something a little bit less overbearing. Much the case with that Zoe ban, 2 bans towards the mid lane, and the Rek'Sai instant lock-in for Habaragi.
Yeah, and we did see some junglers already taken off the tables, and as I did mention, a lot of junglers got shifted lower in priority, and some people think that the Rek'Sai is doing much better now, especially after the Conqueror changes, which I believe this was played before the Conqueror changes did come out, but never mind that. The Rek'Sai is still pretty good, so definitely does make sense to take it up early. The Nunu has also been seeing a lot more popularity as these kind of duelist heavy damage junglers are kind of lowered in priority quite heavily compared to the rest of the junglers. Nunu is just excelling as he can clear his jungle extremely fast and then just spam ganks, which is the primary source to get experience now because jungle doesn't give that much. So if you're able to get some of the successful ganks off, then you're going to be able to get a lot more experience, get ahead in levels. And then with Nunu, you're able to clear really fast, go gank a lane, and then if it works out, you're going to be an unkillable Yeti that is just consuming stuff for health constantly.
Yeah, I mean, he is, I guess the word would be beefy if he gets rolling. The Scion, of course, another one of those extremely brawl-heavy champions, and now we see why they put so much attention to the mid lane, right? The Vladimir pickup, it makes a lot of sense, I think, right? This is a very strong pick. It gets countered by both of those mages. And what do you think CC are going to have to focus in the second part of the draft phase?
They definitely need a decent matchup if the Vel'Koz is not already trying to match the Vladimir. And, I mean, the damage for Columbia College really needs to be here because at the moment, Ezreal, if he gets ahead, can destroy health bars. But the thing is, if Scion and Nunu are able to get either even or get a lead, they will be extremely hard to kill. The Vladimir too, even. And so if they don't have a very good damage to kind of supplement this Ezreal, then they're going to have some trouble. The Vel'Koz, even as a support, will kind of help relieve that issue, but I do think that they need to add a little more damage onto Columbia College's team to be able to get through McGill's.
Do they need to worry about banning out the Caitlyn? I mean, it is extremely impressive against this Ezreal lane, and you talked about how much they need to win that bottom lane.
Yeah, they definitely are going to ban out 2 ADCs, whatever matchups that they would not prefer. The Lucian, a very strong laner, it does make sense to take that out, although, as you did mention, the Caitlyn is available, so that long-range, safe AD carry. But
safe
at the same time,
too. I mean,
yeah.
it's just... It has such good matchup. The Ezreal, so many good trade opportunities, and it kind of negates his early scaling almost, you know, because then you're the one poking him down. It's like the Draven with a lot less risk to yourself.
And that is true. I don't think it's his worst matchup, though. I think stuff with high kill pressure is really bad for him. I think he should be able to handle Caitlyn if it was picked up, but they opt into the Xayah, which isn't actually a horrible matchup for the Ezreal. And with Rakan not being a very great pick, the Xayah is kind of just here to be self-reliant, kind of just tanks are going to go forward. But yeah, they are doing that and opting into taking a Alistar in the bottom lane instead. So they say, okay, we are going to kind of have that heavy damage in the mid lane. And this composition, actually, with the Yorick last pick, is very well-rounded for saying, hey, we are going to just stall and hold and wave clear. We have long-range poke, we have good wave clear with the Vel'Koz, and we have engage when needed with the Alistar Rek'Sai, but what we really want is to stay safe, have our long-range carries clear waves, and then have the Yorick split like crazy. And they picked the Xayah Rakan, which again...
pick the Rakan anyway.
Yeah,
into Alistar.
Exactly, a lot lower priority on that Rakan W. The movement speed, I believe, went from 2,050 to 1,400 at base. So that is just a huge change in their Rakan W.
It gives them so much more time, right? Talking about the move speed, he's mentioning the projectile speed at which Rakan gets to the point. So if you get there slower, you have a lot more time to counter the Rakan, to knock him back, to knock him up on entrance. It's just more time he's actually taking to get to the same spot.
And that makes it a lot harder to get the pick on someone super far back in the backline, like the Vel'Koz. It makes it harder to get the knock-up onto the Ezreal, who can maybe arcane shift out of it. Or maybe the Alistar just has enough reaction time because of this to be able to just knock him back in the first place. So overall, it just hurts the Rakan a lot. And it's going to make this Xayah Rakan have a lot less kill pressure than otherwise would be expected from it. But just looking at Columbia College overall, they have a very safe composition, and they are just looking for that Yorick split push. While on the flip side, there is a lot of AoE and 5v5 fighting on the side of McGill University.
Yeah, McGill definitely going for the all-in 5 versus 5, but we'll see if Columbia College have what it takes to actually bring it to their first win. Their first in quite a while since the round of 128. We're loading into the Rift with Columbia College versus McGill University, and that means introducing the players on the side of blue. We have Columbia College actually swapping around two names, Hybaragi in the top lane, Saikahan in the jungle, CC Charmer at mid, Andrew 1 at AD carry, and in INI Pro at support.
Yeah, and on the red side, we do have, excuse me, McGill University with Flippy Duck up in the top lane, the Exceed in the jungle, I am a Villa in the mid lane, my one true love on AD carry, and D Bowie BB on support.
Deba Webb, whatever it is, he is the one playing that Rakan. And I gotta say, right, you mentioned it earlier, but emphasizing this bottom lane, is there a way in which the Rakan wins? Like, so if Rakan ults and W's in, does Alistar knockback knock him back still, or does he get charmed in terms of that W interaction?
Both. I believe he will get charmed, but the knockback will still go through.
Okay.
So unless the knockback is canceled by a hard CC, like a knockup from the Rakan, then the knockback will still go through. So
okay.
he will maybe have to burn his ulti immediately after getting the knockback, but either way, it is a much easier matchup for the Alistar, which already it was a pretty bad matchup for the Rakan, because as soon as he's looking for that engage, the Alistar can just counter that engage. So it's just not a great matchup, and I think will hurt the engage potential a lot, which Rakan is the main source of engage, I would say, for McGill, but they do have other sources as well, with the Scion ultimate, the Vladimir running in with a Proto Belt, potentially, or the Nunu is a big one, just coming in with a snowball. But again, a lot of those things are situational, and also with the Yorick W, I believe that will block the Scion ultimate as well as the Nunu snowball.
And I gotta ask, right, is this bot lane, do they have 2 kill potential, right? Can they force this wave in and then try to abuse the Rakan Xayah really early game? Oh, Nunu catching out Saikahan early.
Yeah, but Cryo on the Alistar here.
Turning it around, Exceed flashes the wall. Now we have I am Villa in that, again, flash forward. Saikahan has him in his sights. The first blood will go down to Andrew. A little bit of a miscom from McGill leads them into the wrong place at the wrong time. The mid laner goes down after his jungler had already escaped. And you mentioned that priority. They were trying to help out Saikahan. They knew he was going for that early Rift Scuttler. Didn't even get taken away by the Nunu, right? He missed the smite consume, so it went down, and now he has to contest again in his red.
Yeah, and you normally don't see this kind of aggression from a Rek'Sai.
Maybe you do, though, right? It is, after all, a Nunu. If you stop a Nunu from doing what he does, and he doesn't even get the red.
Yeah, that's actually huge. Just, you almost never see a Nunu losing these kind of smite fights because of the consume priority, because of his ability to easily secure it. He's just waiting until it goes to maybe 700 HP, and then he can just make sure that he always gets it as long as he combos his abilities together, which normally gives a huge advantage to the Nunu in these fights. But great early game from Sakan, and because of that, this Nunu is actually in a horrible spot, and this Rek'Sai has a bunch of early game playmaking that he can work with.
Yeah, super, super bad situation right now, and you have to wonder, right? Because of that, just one early game fight. We mentioned the priority, we mentioned how the jungle did get a little bit of a hit in terms of nerfs. Is that going to snowball too much? Are they going to be, super behind because of it?
Well, that definitely will lower the experience that the Nunu is going to be getting through this game. At the same time, the experience gained from that invade is going to be a lot less than it otherwise would be. So Rek'Sai, only level 4 right now, matching the solo laners rather than super accelerated.
Oh no,
you do see a bit of a collapse though.
Has to flash early, and now he actually forces the Ezreal to burn his E. Teleport has already been used. If INI Pro goes down, they will have priority over lane to shove it in, but they can't find the last auto attack. There it is. One True Love finally bringing down the cow, and as he is bringing in the new day, so too is Habaragi in the top lane. Flippy Duck, he is taking a little bit of damage, but that's a huge minion wave. You don't really want to fight in that, even if you are Yorick.
And you got to keep an eye on this top lane too, because if Yorick isn't careful, he might get collapsed on by this Nunu. He does have a nice ward in the river, but we'll have to see if that's going to be enough to stop the snowball engage.
Slow is in. Knock up as well. Snowball coming. He will have to flash this. Oh no, great wall from him to interrupt the snowball.
That's exactly what I was talking about. These two the top lane duo, or the top lane ganking potential from the Sion and Nunu is heavily lowered by the Yorick because of that wall. He can stop the Sion ultimate, and he can stop the Nunu snowball. As long as he isn't greeting out when using it, and not just blowing it off cooldown randomly, and just saving it to counter, he can almost never get ganked, as long as he is playing proper with his position and his vision control. So very well played by Habaragi.
What do you think about, because I've heard some other ideas into the Yorick, right? And I've heard some things, you know, people are thinking fighters might be a better idea. Some people are going back to the super tanks in the Malphite and the Maokai. And I've seen somebody saying, you know, maybe we go the other direction, right? We go for the old traditional super split pushers, the Trundle, the Alawi, you know, things that are very solo queue in nature. Oh, popping the ultimate mid, still trying to burn him down, but even though he's not level 6, Via is going to live through that barely. Right? Vel'Koz does what Vel'Koz does. He almost burns him down with just no prior provocation.
Yeah, and it is a bit interesting to see the Dark Harvest taken on the Vladimir. Normally you'd see either the Phase Rush to stick to people, or the Predator.
Oh, Predator, right, yeah. Electrocute's the older Vladimir.
Well, even Electrocute is taken over Dark Harvest at this point. So it's a bit interesting because you just almost never see that at this point, unless we are going way back in the time machine. But
yeah, true. Interesting part of the Sign matchup. Do these minions give him health? Right, the tiny minions.
No, that was like way old Sion, I believe. Oh,
do the York minions give him health?
Yes, yeah. I was thinking that you're saying York. Does he get health from his ghouls? Which I was like, that is pre-rework Yorick. That is way back.
That is way old. I used to play that Yorick. I'm not talking about that.
I missed that.
Okay, yeah, that was, for reference, for any of you who didn't know, he used to spam his E and just get infinite health back. It was pretty great.
Well, it's every ghoul he had available gave him extra health, I believe.
Extra damage and armor.
Was it damage and armor?
Damage and armor, I believe, yeah.
Okay. But yeah.
Something like that. It was damage and damage resistance. That's what it was. It wasn't health. It was damage resistance.
Yeah. Gosh.
It's just ridiculous.
Luckily, that is not existing anymore. That was a interesting champion.
Where's the move speed? It was something like that. Some really crazy stats just for having ghouls up. But New York is quite prevalent, actually. If you take out the Jin Air wins, it's actually positive, or Jin Air losses, I should say, because they don't have any wins. It's actually positive in LCK. It's like 5 or 6 and 4 at this point. Pretty good champion in terms of actually being able to fit into 5's play. Some people were really skeptical of it, myself included, as it came out. But why is this Yorick such a good pick in the current meta?
Well, one thing that's helping him out a lot is, I believe, Conquer is the main rune choice on him at the moment with the most recent changes to it, where he's getting a lot of sustain back as well in these kind of big brawls. So watch right here. He's just going to be sustaining up and whacking this Sion, taking huge chunks out because of that true damage too. And that is just exactly why he has become so oppressive, because not only is he going to be taking away your health like crazy with those ghouls just wailing away at you, but he's also going to be sustaining up at the same time. And with that too, he just destroys towers and makes this kind of split push that which we haven't been seeing in the meta for too long. And so you really have to make sure that you are keeping him in check, or else he's going to just destroy every single turret in the side lane.
Yeah, speaking of destroying turrets in side lanes, we have seen a couple split push in LCS. Specifically, Ryze, I think, has been one of the newer top picks in terms of split push. It obviously makes sense, right? He takes melees and he goes, you don't matter, and then he hits your turret. So
also, the Jax. I think the Jax is the one big thing that is also coming back in a lot. He also has a pretty good matchup into the Yorick. He's able to jump over the wall. The Counter-Strike, I believe, does prevent the Yorick ghouls from hitting him as well. And then just blocking the Yorick's Q. He just has a very good matchup into the Yorick, just based off the kit. And it means that he's able to match the Yorick in split push at the very least.
Early pool. not really willing to take the fight, but now with the Nunu here, he might change his mind. Charmer is in a lot of trouble, and as he flashes over the wall, they burn the flash of the Vladimir, 1-for-1 in the mid lane. But keep in mind, there is now no way for the Vel'Koz to escape. Vladimir still has a pool.
Yeah, and as long as the Vladimir doesn't have that full blown for, no reason,
He can just
he will be
escape.
able to just do that.
Yeah, that was a full combo. Most normal mages without blinks or without some kind of escape ability do die there. But this time around, he does in fact live because of that pool. Seeing that the dragon goes down, the Rek'Sai feels emboldened. She goes towards to try and take this Rift Herald. Flippy Duck, though, is having such a bad time in this top lane, just getting hammered on by Habaraki.
Yeah, and those ghouls add up a lot of damage, especially with the Maiden and the Yorick hitting the same target.
Missing Charmer. Could root him here. He doesn't have flash. He doesn't have heal. He might go down, in fact. And this is going to be just it. Charmer burned down by the Vladimir, by that Ignite. The heal just didn't do anything in terms of getting him health back. And Exceed, persistence is definitely a virtue for him. He finally makes it work in that mid lane.
Yeah, with that flash being on cooldown, the Exceed is trying to punish Charmer there. And, a Vel'Koz without flash is pretty easy to gank, even for a Nunu, who does have some trouble with certain matchups like the Yorick up in the top lane because of that wall, or something like an Anivia is extremely hard. Yeah, or any champion with a dash. Just, you're never going to gank them on Nunu. But
LeBlanc,
with this,
Kassadin.
yeah, exactly. But with this champion that doesn't have any mobility without the flash, the Vel'Koz is just going to be able to be an easy target. You just want to regank him while he doesn't have that flash. And already they pick up one kill. We'll have to see if he's going to punish that Vel'Koz even more. And if he can, that's going to be wonderful for this Vladimir. Because he has a Dark Harvest too, you want to try to get him as many of those procs as possible. Keep that mid lane health bar low. Keep getting those kills for that Vladimir. And if he's able to snowball, he could be just blowing up these kind of squishies on the side of Columbia College, and that could be a great way to kind of win these all-ins that they really do want to look for, because they don't want to have these long stalled out late game sieges where Columbia College can just split push.
The interesting thing is, this is a double seal corrupting pot mid lane Vel'Koz, and double seal corrupting pot I thought was a lot more for things that brawl quite consistently. Why is it actually here on the Vel'Koz?
It's purely about how efficient the corruption potions are. Sorry, not the corruption potion, the dark seal, as I believe it is 134% gold efficient, if not 130 something. So it is very gold efficient, and it works extremely well with the corruption potion, which helps Vel'Koz with his mana problems, also gives him a little bit of sustain so he can take a little more trades with that Vladimir. So overall, we've been seeing a lot of mid laners just buying tons of Dark Seals to kind of just get all that efficiency for that early game, make sure they're not losing that early prio, and they stay relevant so they don't fall behind.
It sounds like a Singed matchup, I'll be honest. It's right down to the, multiple seal strats. So very interesting that would be the case. And it's kind of interesting that it was a thing top lane, but for only one champion, and now it's a thing mid lane for basically all of them, right? These are the champions Dark Seal was intended to be used on, and we do see quite a few Dark Seal starts, Dark Seal pot is not an uncommon start. Corrupting Potion, obviously, more common the higher you go, but to say that that's unconventional is, I guess a little bit disingenuous.
Yeah, it definitely has become a lot more popular.
Sion here. Little bit of a snowball, only hits the ghoul though. And that means Habaraki has time, but they consume his Maiden of the Mist, and now they try to consume him, but he flashes away not far enough as he gets shut down. Sion responds with a flash of his own and gets the kill. He is down, teleport is up, but the gold differential still in favor of Columbia College. The CS has not been closed so far.
Yeah, Columbia College is all around in the mid lane and the bottom lane, having that CS lead. The Sion has been doing very well at just staying alive and matching the farm up in that top lane. And so definitely some huge props to Flippy Duck. I mean, we have seen how much he's getting bullied, but I mean, again, remember how hard of a time he was having, and look at the CS and see how it's exactly even. That is extremely impressive by the Sion, and definitely huge props to Flippy Duck there. But at the same time, the rest of McGill is having some tough times, and they need to make sure that they are accelerating this game as much as possible. to be able to crack open the base of Columbia College before that York starts coming online with that split push.
Yeah, and trying to crack it open, I mean, they are running out of time. And with the Rift Herald, there's going to be a little bit more pressure than there was before. The mid turret certainly not going to like what it sees walking and lumbering down the mid, but the flash in is on to the one member who likes it even less. Saikahan has to flash away, and even though he drops low, he does actually no flash burn. Very surprised about that, but he just tunnels and makes it out of there. No flash burn. Rift Herald does die after single charge onto the turret, but
Did it get the charge out?
I believe so. Turret looks pretty low.
I think that might have been just the pushing from Charmer.
If it's just the pushing for Charmer, then that's an incredible stop, right?
Yeah, I believe with the Nunu doing a lot of damage with the Consume and the Rakan just stalling it out with a knockup, I think they might have actually stopped the charge altogether. I'm not 100% certain on that, but either way, that was a great stop of the Rift Herald push in the mid lane.
An excellent response. I mean, Columbia College just seemed kind of flat-footed in terms of being able to respond to that. They push in, they look for the Rift Herald. It's a pretty traditional play as it starts to run out, and then you realize McGill have already thought of it. You know, they already had their Vladimir on the wings. He flashes in individually, forces the Rek'Sai off. I'm surprised he didn't even kill him, but close there. No Cigar, no Summoners obtained, but at the very least, they have their turret still. Alistair in the very wrong spot.
Yeah, might have to drop the ulti.
Yeah, he has to ult at some point, but he's going to stopwatch first. Double charm, knock up onto 2, Rek'Sai into the back lines, but they forced out the ultimate, but no kills. And now it's McGill's turn to answer with a Scion charge on through. Columbia College have to run away. Saikahan, he might think otherwise as he goes in. Double kill for him, and there's the turn back. McGill have overstepped their boundaries, and it's all Columbia College all the way down. 4 kills, looking for the last one of those. Flippy Duck goes, and so too shall the turret. Even though the Scion's alive, he's not going to be able to do much as he goes quickly back to the grave.
And that is a huge gold swing. That's also going to be the first blood tower, and the Drake is available. I don't know if they're going to have enough time to do it, especially with the teleport going into the top lane with Andrew 1. But Columbia College come out huge in the play, and they are going to go for that Drake too. So they come out with a first blood tower, an Ocean Drake, which is very nice for this kind of stall siege comp that they have, and a bunch of kills. If we just look at the gold graph right now, or gold difference, it is a 3.7k difference, and I mean, if they get this tower for the Ezreal too, that's going to become even further apart. But that is just a huge swing for Columbia College, and exactly what they need to slow the game down. And right now, McGill's, they need to be trying to just figure something out to get that lead back, to get that momentum that they need. Because if the game is at the pacing of Columbia College, they're just going to be able to whittle away the base of McGill slowly.
Yeah, and I think the really huge part there, the 1 versus 2 double kill from Saikahan was just absolutely massive, right? If he doesn't get that double kill, if he goes down, gets 1 kill or gets no kills, they're not taking that fight. They can't re-engage. It doesn't matter that they have Vel'Koz's ultimate, they have a bunch of damage. They need the Xayah to be gone. They need the Rakan to have dropped already. They need to be able and willing to go in with no damage, no CC response. As soon as he gets those, everything changed.
For sure. And now it's just a really tough situation to be in for the side of McGill. But if they can figure something out, make use of the damage that they have, they could still for sure blow up an Ezreal or a Vel'Koz, notably.
Close, but maybe no Cigar with the pool being used. This could actually still beat them living. I'm very surprised about the Nunu though. He's tanky, but not tanky enough, and Saikahan is going to pick up yet another kill. The Rek'Sai just does way too much damage to compete with right now.
That is extremely rough to watch, but again, Saikahan making big plays around the map, and at this point, Charmer does so much damage on this Vel'Koz with the completed Ludens that if they don't successfully kill him and they have to run away from the Vel'Koz, he's going to be dealing massive damage.
Yeah, I mean, that's really it, right? When he runs away, when you run away from him, he can chase you and do the burn damage. In the top lane, it was just one True Love under turret. She goes down. And this is, I mean, this is an absolute, like, slaughter at this point. It's starting to turn into something of a rout. And McGill University, they looked like they were so composed for so long, but that one fight, the one, wrong step and just getting completely swung back on their heads is certainly something that they don't want to happen again. If they have another one of those, the game's going to end, of course. So they have to make sure that they're not making any mistakes, they're not making any kind of oversteps, and it's really put a damper in their strides because they can no longer do those sorts of plays. They can no longer be forcing. They can no longer be pressuring. Their lanes all collapse. Their outer turrets are gone, and they have barely any vision to compensate.
While yes, they can't really do that very well, I think that they still have to, because if they aren't, they are going to be getting poked under their tower by the Ezreal Vel'Koz. The Yorick is just going to be able to freely split push, and they're just going to lose everything. They need to get their foot in the door. They need to force a fight and get some kind of momentum. Shut some people down, get some of that kill gold on your carries, and just try to snowball somebody on your team, the Xayah or the Vladimir. And if they aren't able to do that, if they actually just say, hey, we just need to slow this game down, they can't slow the game down because things are just going to go really bad if Ezreal is able to just keep on scaling, getting more tier items, getting the Vel'Koz with more items. I mean, yes, Xayah and Vladimir don't mind scaling either, but with a Yorick up in the top lane, able to split push away, or in the side lane, excuse me, they just can't play the timer. This is not a game where they can play it slow. They need to keep forcing. Regardless of their position in the game, they need to ram their head against the wall. If they're able to bust through the wall, great. If their head starts bleeding, oh no.
Oh no, indeed. I mean, same could be said right now for the side of Exceed. He's actually stunned when he tries to ult, and here comes Saikahan. This is looking a little bit dangerous, now a lot bit dangerous as the Rek'Sai goes into her ultimate form. That's no longer dodgeable, and she might get burned down. Finally actually dropped 1-for-1 trade so far. Sion missing his ultimate, though, could be a big misstep. Flippy Duck now has to try and run the heck away from this fight. Still turning backwards, though, and he's alive. He's got a lot of health on that Sion. You mentioned the Ezreal not being able to burn him. We see it there. And they do survive in a 1-for-1 trade.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what happened to Debaweb there. I believe he was low at the start of the fight or something. But I do like that they use a Sion to come up there, try to get the numbers advantage, and they come out relatively even at the end of that fight. But they do lose the bottom tower and the mid tower because of the pushing potential from that Yorick, and that is exactly why they have to check this timer. If they made that fight happen and they got 3-4 kills for it maybe, and the Sion only got the one tower, then yes, that is exactly what they want. And props to them for playing the way that they should be, but they aren't executing upon it perfectly. Oh, Exceed not getting it.
Yeah, with Exceed not being able to actually do anything, it's another Drake that's going to go over 2-1 right now for the side of Columbia College.
Drake. That is extremely important for the Baron take for this team. It means that they're able to just melt the Baron on the side of Columbia College. And Yorick with an Earth Drake hitting these towers, that is just a bit scary.
It's more than a bit scary at this point, right? The Yorick is going to continue to smack these towers. They're missing now 2 towers in 2 of their 3 lanes. If they lose the third, the map's going to be almost completely dark as well. They won't be able to really adventure into their jungle to pick up what gold still remains, still is available to them. So Columbia College, they haven't advanced the gold lead, but they have advanced the vision line. And that's going to be very, very worrisome for the side of McGill. They are slowly losing control over this map and have no real plan to regain it so far.
And, I mean, ooh, bit of a risky move by Debaweb, excuse me, but he does make it out and gets the Vel'Koz ulti, so that's a little window of opportunity possibly to play off of. The Vel'Koz not having ultimate is pretty important, but they need to find some kind of force with the Sion while Yorick doesn't take their whole base, which is a very small window that they will have potentially when this Yorick is walking back. But he does have the teleport to actually match too, so in a straight 5v5, this might go really wrong for the side of McGill, but they need to do something and not give this Baron over.
The Baron is, of course, the turning point, right? If the Baron doesn't go their way, this game's most likely going to go Columbia College's side. If they can steal it, though, and steal it they can, Nunu Smite Consume, remember that. This is so important.
So the Blast Cone is not available. That will be extremely hard to pull off.
but he doesn't even have flash. And if he gets picked, this Baron is basically free. He's going to channel ultimate, already having gone down, though. The Exceed, when he drops, the team knows that it is now time to go. They send their one member down bot, but in the 4 versus 3, they're going to start the Baron up. They have the smite. Nobody else has smite. Nobody else wants to contest on the side of McGill University. They're just going to let this one go, and I think that might just be Baron. It doesn't look like they really want to get in here at all. The Baron goes down, and what do you know? Columbia College at 25 minutes, they've got themselves a Baron. They've got themselves nearly a 10,000 gold lead. Now they have to close the game.
Yeah, as soon as Columbia College took that one big fight in the bottom lane, the gold swung in their favor, and all the momentum was in their hands. And with this kind of composition, you cannot fall behind as McGill, because it's not notably their composition that's the problem. It's Columbia College's composition that's the real scary thing, where it's all about that York in the side lane. He is going to get that split push. He's going to win it. He's going to outscale the Scion in the side lane. It doesn't matter how tanky the Scion gets. He has Conqueror to burn through that health bar. He has a bunch of damage with the Death Stance, with the Triforce, and just his kit. The ghouls do a lot of damage base. And so now there's just really very little that you can do on the side of McGill, because you just kind of get choked out by this composition. You have to find a force onto the Vel'Koz and win through a team fight, just making it happen. But if Columbia College stays very well,
it's going to be an awkward force.
The line of scrimmage, yeah, it's going to be an awkward force, because they're going to be able to block it, make sure the Vel'Koz isn't easy access with the Alistar, just get some peel for him, and
it seems like the wrong path for that Xayah. Ooh. York from the backside. They're now starting to get pinched. McGill, this is their one chance to get a pick. But Habaragi flashes early and then turns to get the kill. This could be the beginning of the end as they bring down nobody else. The second member should be dropping sometime soon. There he is. First comes the Vlad. Second, we have their Nunu. Then the Scion, and the last member left alive no longer remains so. The undead man is the only one who stands between them and victory, and they quickly dispatch of him, the inhibitor, and then the rest of the base.
And it's just complete domination by Columbia College. As soon as they get that lead, as soon as they have a little bit of momentum to work with, they choke it out with the poke composition. They siege down the base of McGill. They didn't even need the split push too much, as they were just running through in these team fights with the amount of damage they had on those carries. And huge first game to Columbia College.
Yeah, first game secured, and realistically, I would say relatively cleanly, you know? Sure, they gave up some early kills, some bit of a misplay in that super early game, but once it got to the point where Columbia College's, split pusher was online, the game was just basically over.
Yeah, it was just extremely rough from McGill's side, because they did play the early game well, but as soon as they dropped the ball, just one play, they lost all the momentum, and they lost the ability to engage on a poke composition, which, if you are in that position, it is extremely hard to win, and you are basically at the beck and whim of the enemy team.
Yeah, well, we will see if Columbia College are going to make this a 2-0, or if McGill can take their early game, get a bit of a mental reset, come back swinging, and get the series evened up in game number 2. Don't go anywhere, though. See Star League. We'll be right back.
like you do. Like you do. Why you so defensive? You always miss my calls. Run around in circles cause you're nervous I won't catch you when you fall. You're so defensive. Why you so defensive? Don't listen to the voices in your head. They're gonna take you down and you know it. I'll be waiting till you come to your senses. Baby, tear down your fences. Baby, tear down your fences. Don't listen to the voices in your head. They're gonna leave scars if you don't show it. I'll be waiting till you come to your senses. Baby, tear down your fences. Baby, tear down your fences for me. Understand why I miss you. That's an issue. Oh, don't listen to the voices in your head. They're gonna take you down and you know it. I'll be waiting till you come to your senses. Baby, tear down your fences. Baby, tear down your fences. Don't listen to the voices in your head. They're gonna leave scars if you don't show it. I'll be waiting till you come to your senses. Baby, tear down your fences. Baby, tear down your fences for me. I'll be waiting till you come to your senses. Baby, tear down your fences. Baby, tear down your fences. Don't listen to the voices in your head. They're gonna leave scars if you don't show it. I'll be waiting till you come to your senses. Baby, tear down your fences. Baby, tear down your fences for me.
I'm searching for some sunshine. Just need one ray through the dark skies. I gotta look for the bright side. I know we're gonna be alright. I know we're gonna be alright. These dark clouds will go away. I'm holding on to my face. I know we're gonna be okay. Yeah, we're gonna be okay.
What is up, everyone? We're back. You know who it is. It's still C-Star League. It has been quite a long time, like 3 or 4 minutes since we last talked to you guys. But in that short time, we reviewed some of the stuff Columbia College did, and they are definitely looking very good. We're back into game number 2. The draft phase is about to start. Columbia College versus, of course, McGill University. And McGill, they showed some promise, right? In the super early parts of that game, they definitely had some proactive plays. They had some very good fights, and we're going to be looking for them to replicate that if they want to have any chance of success in this game number 2.
I definitely do think that McGill needs to either take away some of the components of the poke siege comp that Columbia College had, like the Ezreal, I believe that was crucial to it, or find some harder engage and make sure that you're able to force those fights even from a neutral standpoint where the teams are even, because with the lack of reliable engage that McGill had and the amount of long range poke and also the Alistar just purely disengaging it by himself meant that they were just never able to find the fights that they needed to outside of really early on in the game. So I think McGill, if they can come swinging with a very good early game like they did last game, and then make sure they have the abilities and the tools to keep winning in the mid game and forcing before, something like the York is able to take their entire base, then I think that McGill has a pretty good shot at coming back in the second game. If they're not able to answer to Columbia College's composition, however, like last game, I think Columbia College could take an easy 2-0.
Yeah, the ban actually wrecked Psy from Columbia College. They picked it away last time, they banned it this time, and now with the Ezreal removed, of course every AD does play Ezreal. That's pretty much a given at this point. We're going to be looking towards what? What is Columbia College really prioritizing in this first and second pick?
Yeah, so they definitely are going to pick an ADC within the next 3 picks in the first rotation. I don't think they want it to go into the second ban phase. I think they want to counterpick top lane with their last pick on the red side. And because they're taking jungle here, it's either going to be ADC or probably support unless they want to show their mid this early. But that would be a bit risky. But the Jarvan does give some really good engage to the side of Columbia College. So already, even if McGill kind of drafts a poke composition similar to what Columbia College had last game, they have options. However, they pick up the Vel'Koz, so they do have a very good amount of teamfight AoE right now on Columbia College. While there's a lot more assassination potential coming out with that the Fizz, I do like that. However, one thing to throw out there before we keep talking about this is Vel'Koz could be flexed to the support position.
Yeah, that support position, I mean, it's quite flexible, of course, but generally, I mean, we've seen more Vel'Koz support, I would say, than we have mid recently, at least in solo queue. But in fives, it hasn't been a high priority. So, given that Charmer picked it last time and that it was kind of just his whatever the pick into something, I think he might opt into it. The only problem I see is it is Fizz, right? If you opt into the Vel'Koz versus Fizz matchup, you're basically giving him a guaranteed lane, right? If you go into poke, if you go into, auto trade, do that early aggression, Fizz will go on you, right? And you only have one tool to stop him, which is your E. If you miss it because he troll pulls, because he Qs, whatever happens to be, he has a ton of mobility. Now Vel'Koz is in a ton of trouble.
Definitely is looking pretty risky for the Vel'Koz. I do like the Jarvan pick into the Olaf for the fact that he has hard terrain to stop the Olaf ulti. But at the same time, this Olaf does run down the Vel'Koz if the Jarvan is not there sitting with his ultimate ready. So, 2 sides to each coin with that Olaf pick. But also, the Fizz does very well into the Vel'Koz, and so it's going to be interesting to see if this Vel'Koz is going to be put in that mid lane, because I think that they might also just use it as a flex to kind of bait out some of that, mid lane pressure to get a better matchup. At the same time, though, we do see a lot of top lane bans coming out from McGill, taking away the Yorick, notably, not going to be seeing a replicate the same kind of top lane matchup that we did last game, but also the Poppy, which is good into the Fizz. I don't know if it's that strong that you need to ban it out, but in the end, they just want to get some kind of good top lane matchup, especially with the counter pick available, and it is going to be a top lane counter pick as we do see the Thresh coming out, rounding out the compositions, which is going to throw the Vel'Koz into the mid lane.
Yeah, the only flex left, of course, we have seen jungle Jarvan, we've seen top Jarvan as well. They could put it up there, if they really think that's a good matchup. I can't see a way that you would hard counterpick Riven, right? Would you really go for something super solo queue? Would you opt into that Kennen or the Teemo?
Throw the Vayne up in the top lane?
And Vayne, oh my god, the Vayne Riven matchup, right? Walk on a knife's edge, talk about a double knife's edge. If you win,
Yeah.
You win really hard. If you lose, the game's over, right? Are they really going to risk that?
It is risky, because if the Riven does snowball, she does just one-shot the Vayne. But
This is still pretty risky. I mean, the Renekton's not
This is
exactly
a-
a safe pick into the Riven.
yeah, it's not a hard counter matchup. It's more of a even matchup. I would say a skill matchup, although it might be a bit Renekton favored.
Yeah, slightly. I mean, the stun combo and the hit stun that you have for the longest time, it does kind of lock them out a bit.
And also, it does allow for CC chains. I mean, you have a point and click
True.
on the Renekton now. If he's able to dash forward, get a stun on somebody, it allows a Thresh follow-up, a Jarvan knock-up, or the Vel'Koz knockup, which kind of takes a little bit longer. You know, the skill shot hits kind of not as immediate as the Renekton stun, so that does allow the setup where Renekton can dash or double dash forward, get a stun. Then you got massive follow-ups with the Jarvan, Vel'Koz, and Thresh. So unless you're focusing the Olaf, then you should be good when you're able to CC a target.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
at the same time, there's also pretty good team fighting with the Vel'Koz and the Jarvan, but a lot of early power on these picks with the Renekton, Lucian, Thresh, and the Jarvan. That's a lot of early game. While on the flip side, much better scaling compared to last game for McGill's with the Ezreal, Soraka, much safer bot lane.
did they swaps their junglers actually playing mid? The Exceed is on Fizz.
Yeah, Debweb was also support, I believe.
He was. And Imwila was their mid. Huh.
Huh.
Huh. Well, that's a couple picks that have swapped around, right? Their junglers now their mid, their supports their jungle. We'll see how this goes. I'm not really sure why they opted into it. It's just because of the Fizz matchup. Exceed does play a lot of it, but you got to think if this was their best, chance, if this is their best strat, why not run it from the start, right?
It might be due to a substitution, although the players do look to be the exact same as the previous game, so a bit of an interesting situation, but nonetheless, maybe this kind of shakeup does change what they need heading into the second game. I mean, composition already has changed a lot, and I think that the compositions aren't quite as clear-cut as the previous game. Now, this game, I think, is definitely much more of a snowbally game rather than one composition having the early advantage and then just Columbia College just scaling into the late game like crazy. I think this game is a little more situational, especially for the solo lanes. I think that the solo lanes are a bit more even, especially with the Fizz able to get an advantage. And I think in the bottom lane, there are a clear-cut, safe Ezreal and, a squishy Soraka to focus down. But at the same time, the Lucian will get outscaled by the Ezreal. So you got these pros and cons to each side rather than just
hooking that Ezreal early, though. Ignite already down. I mean, this is just so much damage. Look at that. Soraka starting her Q. Gonna force that Ezreal to back off. That was an incredible amount of early game damage. We're talking one more combo, one double auto attack from the Lucian to finish him off, but didn't have that anywhere near good enough to finish. Wow, big combos out of the Riven. Trading still even because of that Renekton damage.
And I mean, Ezreal, that is a lot of damage dealt to him, but he does have the teleport available, so if he takes another hit or two, he probably will just recall, come back to lane. But that is a summoner advantage, then going over to the side of
well, they already
McGill.
have a summoner advantage
Columbia
in
College.
essence, right? Oh, but now they have a kill advantage too. The flash doesn't matter. Got themselves that first pick. Rocco, I mean, he really, really did just kind
and
of
Jarvan's
force it
coming
out.
down too. They might look for it. Oh, wait a second.
Be careful there, Thresh. It's still a wave. If he got hit by that Q, he was actually gone, but doesn't get finished off by it. Instead, they will shove this wave in. Realistically, I think Jarvan will make his way back down before the second wave crashes to turret. They should have about 5 seconds to do so, in which they can dive, but the Ezreal still here, still on the turret, still farming away.
In the top lane, though, Flippy Duck is getting really hard traded on by Heibaragi, excuse me. But it looks like this Renekton is having a very comfortable time, at the very least, in this top lane matchup. And Riven having to force that early recall, buying that cloth armor, just kind of giving over that lead to the Renekton. He might try to recall and match items, or he might try to save the recall and just trade a little bit of health and then TP back. And already, look at these junglers, too. The Jarvan just clearing out his camps with the Olaf, trying to take the Krugs here, might be a little too far forward.
Yeah, he gets flashed on the Renekton. Now in there with the empowered Q, but it's not enough damage to bring him down. It did get the flash out of his own flash, though, and now he's in a world of trouble. He can't flash away from this, and the Exceed is going to exceed our expectations with the role swap, now getting the first kill for his team. And The kills for McGill, I mean, this could be the start of something good for them, right? They do need to get these early kills, of course. They're looking for a Fed Fizz. They're looking for an advantage in that lane. Certainly who you want to have it on.
Yeah, that stabilizes out the top lane a little bit. It's a bit interesting that Habaragi went for that in the first place because of the kind of, you force the Olaf to flash, you get a free summoner, and Flippy Duck teleported back to top lane. I believe he saw it. So you know that the Riven's going to be there. Oh, wait a minute here. Oh, wonderful knock-up.
This is close, but man, just absolutely too much right now. It's a skill matchup for a reason, right? That's certainly what it's all about. Rocco might be in a little bit of trouble, though. Q goes wide. He sidesteps it, and One True Love has to go back to farming the wave. Big wave that it is. He could get pressured out, forced out, back to turret. That Riven, I mean, under so much pressure, such a thin line you have to walk in order to be able to win against Renekton.
And, I mean, Ooh, that chunking onto Rakul. You gotta keep a close eye on him because he could just drop if the Ezreal decides to get aggressive. But yeah, touching up on that top lane a little bit. This Riven, even with the extra combat power with that cloth armor, is still just not trading too great into this Renekton. It just looks like a bunch of
mana on Charmer. He could actually go down, Exceed. Knowing that there could be a jungler nearby, though, decides to walk back. Kites forward, just kind of dancing. Doesn't really want to E unless he really has to. Saves that so long. That's such a good play, I think. Because anytime they actually full commit, he can just turn.
Yeah. But overall, this game, pretty even early game so far.
Except for that top lane.
Yeah, except for that top lane, which we see the CS difference is building up. And that kill in the mid lane will help the Fizz out for sure, though. And I think as long as Habaragi is playing patiently, I think he got a little bit too aggressive there without his jungler to match the Olaf. But now with the Jarvan up here, maybe they will look for something. No, he's building a wave up. I highly doubt they will look for a dive.
They could crash and dive, actually. Not the worst idea.
It is rough diving Riven.
True. Hard to actually kill,
Yeah,
very hard.
I believe that Habaragi isn't level 6 yet. Oh no, he is. They could do it.
Yeah, this could be a very early kill, in fact. And they will get the kill. Habaragi, one turret shot away from death, but the Riven just got stun comboed. You mentioned the stun combo, how long she's actually out of action. Lets the Jarvan just land a free EQ. And that free EQ translates into at least 2 plates, probably 3. No teleport back up. 2 plates it will have to be, and they do back. Fizz was coming up. It's not somebody you want to tangle with, even if you do have 2 members there. It's still so risky, right? So they're just going to back off instead.
That too. They also get a really nice reset timer. The wave is now slow pushing back to Habaragi. He's going to be able to recall, go back to top lane. The wave is going to be built up. He can then get a further experience advantage, and then also his next recall is going to be considerably better than Flippy Duck's, as well as this recall just being good. So that's just extremely important for this top lane matchup. As now look at the item difference. We see the Kindle Gem completed for the Rivens, which is going to give her that CDR, but the completed Ninja Tabby and the Tiamat on the Renekton is so much more. He's got those 2 half-completed items, or, however you want to call it, that provide a lot more in these 1v1 situations. So I expect to see this top lane difference become even bigger and more notable, especially when that ultimate cooldown comes back up for Habaragi.
Yeah, the half-finished items, basically, they're just kind of components. So he has component built. Tiamat, pretty good, It's definitely not bad, but it's just better than the Kindle Gem, right?
Yeah, CDR is nice and all, but
it's nice.
Like,
you have some health.
The Tiamat's kind of like a semi-completed item in a sense. And look at this dive again, 3 people up here.
This is just, there's no wards for this, right? So instead, he's gonna have to get completely burned down. Charmer takes them out before they can even respond. The Fizz, normally so good at roaming, is caught completely on the wrong foot. He gets up here. It's way late, though. He might try for a fish. Watch the fish dive, because Fizz is queuing in, throwing that R. Gets super, super sneaky. If he knew that there's a Vel'Koz in that bush, I guarantee he would go for it.
It would be a bit aggressive to try 1v3, even if you are full health and they have some low health bars. Maybe he could make it work, but again, you don't want to be dropping more kills than you have to. But at this point, oh,
Hooked in and brought down. They already slain Villa. No way that he could live through that, and just blatant disrespect on the Soraka gets completely punished. Columbia College, we're not going to stand for that one too long. E in, Q through, Exceed. He wrote the book on this, right? That was such a clean play here, but at the same time, right, dropping kills across the map, not what McGill wants to do. He mentioned they need to stay strong in the early game. And if they're losing kills to the Lucian, right, one of the early game powerhouses from Columbia, they're going to have a really hard time winning out that mid.
I do think that there is a bit of a shining light, though, for the side of McGill, which is that Fizz pick. I think that if he's able to snowball, even if the entirety of Columbia College is doing fairly well, as long as they don't have a defensive item, he's always going to be able to just assassinate one of those targets and take them out of the fight. And if he's able to make that pick early on, then while, yes, your team might be a bit weaker overall, in a 5v4, you guys will still win. So I think as long as this Fizz is able to snowball and able to isolate targets, they have a pretty good shot of keeping up this keeping even at the very least.
At the very least. Even, definitely better than losing, but Gold Lead is starting to climb northwards. It's, you know, Columbia College, CS lead in the top lane, and realistically in the mid lane as well with that extra
And the
kill
kill
that
lead
is.
in the bot lane.
Yeah, kill lead, I think it evens out in terms of that total gold in the bot lane, but Riven, even if, look at this, the dueling potential finally manages to go even with that completed Caulfields and the Kindle Gem. She is actually able to win, not win, but go even with the Renekton with his 2 items.
Yeah, and it's also important to mention that, yes, the Exceed might be able to match Habaragi in the side lane in a split push scenario where you won't be able to have Habaragi just kind of take the entire base like he did with the Yorick because the Fizz can kill him. But the Fizz doesn't have teleport while Habaragi does. So if, let's say, they send the Fizz to go match Habaragi bot lane later on in a split push situation when the Baron is available, at that point Habaragi can back up, TP to the Baron, and then at that point you have a 5v4, Fizz is stuck in the bot lane by himself, and there's your most fed member completely away from the team. They're going to get a free objective, and then they go right back to pushing, and then you just lose a Baron. So, I mean, it needs to be this Riven who's able to match the Renekton later on, and at this point, that's not going to be happening.
Olaf, he's already low, followed across by the Thresh, runs through the box, does remain unstoppable, but now they're going to try to turn it around. Andrew has already gotten the kill with Rockwool pulling in One True Love. They're going to be able to escape for just a little bit longer. Charmer has stopwatch. He's going to go golden, but the rest of the members have turned and arrived to him. But maybe it is too little too late, and in fact it will be. The Exceed finishes him off. Habaragi is here though. To Jarvan as well. They're going to find Fizz. And this just went from bad to worse. They are going to be able to hunt down the Ezreal most likely. There's Rockle looking for that last pull in. Oh, Riven here though. Could turn it around. But the CC is just so much to deal with. And there's nothing she can do to stop this. Or is there? In fact, taking down the Lucian and the Thresh. The double kill for the shutdown. Insane turn around by Flippy Duck. Now he has to get out, but how can he do it? Ezreal in, they're turning around onto the Renekton, 2 autos away from death. Doesn't actually lose it, and instead Sycahan will corral the mid lane, will bring it down and set the Rift Herald into motion. What a turnaround though. McGill, it looked hopeless, and then it looked hopeful, and they almost got the last kill on top of it. It is now an early game in which they can actually fight for. Unless the Riven goes down, doesn't happen.
Yeah, and that's a nice swing back in kills. The goal difference only being 2k at this point isn't horrible. They're able to work with it still. Great turnaround by Flippy Duck. It did look hopeless for a second there, but amazing outplay potential from this Riven does come out, and that's exactly why you don't want her getting fed, because she's able to just throw shield after shield when she gets that CDR coming in. With that 20% she already has, as soon as she's picking up more and more of it, she's going to have more outplay potential, and I think she will start scaling even harder into the Renekton unless he starts snowballing. So we'll have to keep a close eye on this top lane and who's able to have that priority, because we did mention, if she's not able to match him and the Fizz is forced to match the Renekton, that is extremely rough to deal with. but it looks like this Riven might be able to reach the point where she can actually hold the side lane on her own.
Maybe. I mean, being able to hold the side lane on her own, I think, would be, as you said, right, kind of the turning point. That would be where they can say, okay, it's actually doable. We can actually turn this game around and do our own split push game, win the side lanes. It's all fine.
It's not even just win the side lane. Oh, hold on a second.
This could be the wrong place, the wrong time. A big kill onto Psychohan, but he lands the hook. Only knocks back one though. It's Devil Web, and even if they kill the Olaf, what will they do about the Fizz? Because he's in and he is doing a ton of damage. Columbia College, they might have overstepped their bounds. McGill answered back in a huge way. Still pressure, the Ezreal forcing him away from this dragon entirely, and what a turnaround to catch out the enemy jungler and instantly convert it into a drag. I mean, that's what you want to see. It's the macro plays off of the micro objectives.
And just a bit of an overstep again. We touched on how this Fizz is extremely mobile. He's able to deal with that Jarvan ultimate. And while the Olaf might struggle a little bit with it, he's still tanky enough to live through it, especially with a Soraka just backing everybody up. And unless you're able to make a pick onto one of the squishies, the Fizz, the Soraka, the Ezreal, you're not going to really make anything come out of it. And in the end, you know, hook lands on the Olaf, not going to play anybody else in, means that that threshing gauge really was a bit botched, and recall wasn't canceled there. That was a bit interesting, but again, oh, look at this play. Just constant aggression by Exceed. I don't know if he has enough damage, though.
Oh, he does now. As soon as he steps back in, that is a kill for Exceed. He gets out as well. I mean, you want to talk about why you can't really punish a Fizz, right? He also has his Zanya's doesn't use it.
Well, he was punished right there.
Okay. I was thinking you wouldn't be able to because, right, he has Zanya's. He's got so many things to actually escape. Didn't really use any of them. Maybe his mind was elsewhere. Maybe his mind was in the shop. Whatever it happens to be in the 1v1, right?
That was a big shutdown going back over,
It was
too.
a huge shutdown to go back.
550. Yeah, this Jarvan also going for a pretty heavy damage build with the Warrior. We'll probably be able to complete that Black Cleaver on the recall, and that's actually pretty significant because that means that he's able to shred armor. He's able to make that the ganks with a Lucian or a Renekton that much stronger. Even just by himself, it makes him a lot better for the chase. But I mean, when he's ganking now, he will just reduce that armor and they will get shredded because of the heavy amount of AD that he has on his two side laners.
Yeah, that's kind of a consideration they have to be looking at for the next part of this, right? Is if they can't actually stop it, where do they turn next, right? Are they actually able to? Oh, talk about turning next. ZC Charmer, he wants to go next. This is a 1-4 Vel'Koz having a terrible time into the Fizz matchup, and this is kind of the reason I wanted to see its support, is because we already knew the Fizz was here. We already knew the Fizz was going to be their mid laner. Sure, you know, support Vel'Koz isn't ideal, but it's a lot better than getting your mid lane smashed.
Yeah, the Vel'Koz early pick is a flex pick for a reason, and not flexing it, I think that it was kind of called as a bluff, saying, hey, we don't think you're going to flex that mid lane. We're just going to throw the Fizz out there. If you do flex it and, you know, you counter the Fizz, we might lose, but we don't think you're going to do it. And they don't. And now this Fizz is just going crazy, and he is extremely fed. As long as he's able to keep finding those picks, the rest of his team, while a bit more on the defensive side, is able to keep up a very strong backline with the Ezreal Soraka. And so in the objectives, they'll be able to kind of dance them out, poke them with the Ezreal, sustain up with the Soraka, and the Fizz can then go in for the pick, like right now. Although he doesn't have the ultimate yet. Oh, he does.
He does have ultimate, and he does have the kill. He's pulled out of turret slightly. There's the Zanyas we were talking about earlier, but can he actually get out of this? The answer, not so much. Instead, the Renekton flash forward onto the Soraka, already brought down, and here comes the Vel'Koz. Columbia College doing it again. They managed to find that, and the hook from the backside of the fight brings down the Ezreal as well. What looked so dire after losing their 2 damage members suddenly turns fantastic for them.
And I think that was just a complete overchase by the Exceed. Yes, you get a kill, but you're trading 1 for 1, which you could just zone them off with the Fizz. You guys can get the bottom tower for free, and then just reset, look to make plays on the other side of the map. instead giving over a bunch of kills, giving over that lead again in gold. Now a 2K lead for Columbia College. That's just, I mean, you're this extremely fed member on this McGill University lineup. You can't be trading your life to take out the Lucian. You know, while Lucian is a good target to find, you could just be shutting down that Vel'Koz or just zoning people, right? You don't need to trade your life. 1v3, too aggressive.
You can't go 1-for-1, right? You
Yeah.
can trade your life, but it has to be 2,
1 for
3
2,
kills
yeah,
that,
at least
at
1
the
for
very
2.
least.
Exactly, and that didn't happen. And now that is a pretty big swing, actually. Baron is coming up soon, but I think the Exceed is just getting too aggressive with these ultis and plays. Now no Fizz ulti, no ability to kind of make a play for a bit longer. We'll have to see if Columbia College is going to make something happen in the meantime.
Yeah, and they need
And
to...
I mean, the Drake is up. Infernal
Yeah,
Drake,
it is
no
up.
Fizz ulti.
Without a Fizz ult, I mean, how are they actually going to contest this? That's the question, right? Can
Yeah,
they contest this?
I don't even know if they're going to. Web isn't anywhere nearby. It looks like they want to try to steal with the Ezreal or something, but I mean, I don't think it's going to quite work out.
You don't think it should, right? Because it's like, okay, you know, you have a bit of a way to get back into this, right? You've got the engage from Olaf, the Riven run in, but
I
you
think the
don't
big
really
thing is
need, you
the
know?
Exceed isn't looking at the bigger picture. He's purely focusing on the Fizz, focusing on getting the kills, and he's not thinking, do I need my ultimate for the objective coming up? You know, is me dying
Yeah.
here going to cost my team anything, right? He was purely like, can I kill this person right now? Not, am I going to die? Am I going to give up objectives or something if I try to go for this and it doesn't work out? And Web might be in a bit of a crucial bad spot himself.
Yeah, he looks to be getting brought down, and he does. Saikahan has already gone and dispatched of the Olaf. Now, Columbia College, only a 3,000 gold lead, still going to try
But
and
that Infernal
expand
Drake is fairly important, and considering
It's
how
true.
heavy damage their composition is,
both comps.
4 threats. Yeah, that Infernal Drake was extremely important to get, and I think that this is definitely swinging things into Columbia College's favor. I think that after that bot lane play, again in the bot lane where things swing around, I think it was even at that point, but now I think Columbia College is actually completely in the lead. They get another tower here. They have a 4K gold lead, or 3.5K, but that Infernal Drake is the real big icing on the cake.
Yeah. With that Infernal, I mean, they're going to be able to scale up, they're going to be able to get some stuff done, but more importantly, it's not on the side of McGill, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
McGill,
That Fizz
who
or
had
that
the
Riven.
lead, who has the really strong Fizz, if he had even more damage, it's even more dangerous.
Exactly. It's just all around. I think the macro game is really what's missing by McGill's here, as every single game individually, they look to be matching or surpassing Columbia College.
Yeah.
But it's every single time where we get later into the game, regardless of composition, where it starts swinging back around. And I think looking at the big picture here is really what's hurting McGill, as they aren't able to do that quite as well as Columbia College.
Well, we'll see if they're able to soon, because after all, the gold lead is stagnant. It hasn't really moved at all. There's been no big plays, and McGill, for the most part, right, have calmed down slightly. What I would say is they aren't really in danger of just losing, because the side of Columbia doesn't want to force anything, you know? They've been given every fight so far, so they've kind of been conditioned to just not look for anything. You know, you don't need to force a fight when you're getting gifted fights, when you're getting, you know, gifted turnarounds. If someone engages on you and it's too far, just call for the turnaround and they win it. But they might be walking to the wrong spot at the wrong time. Misses the ult. So important. If that had landed, they would have absolutely gone in, absolutely killed off Andrew, and then potentially had a huge lead, take some kind of an objective, but not having it means they're going to wait again for the Fizz ult to come up.
And this is a really aggressive Ezreal positioning. He is perfectly fine. But this Ezreal is a bit low on mana right now. Because of that, they're going to be able to walk towards that Dragon or Baron setup vision if they had any, although it looks like they are a bit low on wards on the Columbia College side. They're just going to reset that vision as well. And I mean, it looks like McGill is going to set up some vision right now, which I like that they're thinking about it consciously. but they they don't have any vision. They're trying to, you know, check the Baron with the Ezreal ulti. They're not getting a good reset timer right now. They might actually... Oh, this is really rough. Ezreal's not going to get a reset to match the side of Columbia College. Columbia College is able to reset. They're going to get the vision control, and they're going to be pressuring the side of McGill. If McGill goes off the map, they might actually lose a Baron potentially. It doesn't look like it's going to be quite as big of a punish, though.
Yeah, it was potentially a huge punish. In reality, not so much. They are still in this, and that's kind of what I was talking about, right? They kind of conditioned to not just super punish.
Although
not
it
just...
actually looks like...
maybe.
No,
Okay.
things going a bit different than I expected. McGill... so we couldn't see the Drake that was coming up, but it is actually an Infernal Drake spawning in 30 seconds. So the lane assignments, they have... Oh, hold on a second. Flippy
This
Duck.
could be pretty big catch if they manage to find it. Flippy is still in a lot of trouble, and that hook will seal the deal. But could also signal the start of the Baron, right? They've got 4 members up towards this top side, and all of the rest of the members of Columbia College have to run up. But with Ezreal and Fizz as their main damage sources, they're not going to have nearly enough damage to bring this Baron down.
No Earthdrake, no Infernal. It was
Yet.
too slow. And now, with that Riven dead, there's a free Infernal, basically, for the side of Columbia College. Second Infernal Drake, 17% increased damage, just like that.
Should be
And I mean,
free too.
If the side of McGill did go for that Baron, I believe that Columbia College would have been able to make it in time to stop it. And the lane assignments from Columbia College said, we're not looking for the Baron right now. We're looking for the Drake. And
Yeah,
they
true.
sent Renekton top lane. Everyone on the bottom side of the map needs to be aware. If Renekton is in top lane, that's the split pusher. The main force is going to be on the other side of the map. That is the bot side. We need to have vision. Riven did not have vision. Flippy Duck got caught out by the whole team. Dies there, and second Infernal going over, as well as the Exceed. When you see the Renekton up there, you got to be wondering, why am I matching this guy? Where there is the rest of the team? I need to be where the objective is because I don't have teleport. There was no way they were going to stop that Infernal with the Fizz in the top lane. And another Infernal going over means harder time taking Baron, harder time taking a team fight. And the gold difference, fairly even still, but the objectives are just every single time going over to Columbia College.
Yeah, and Columbia College again. Macro play still miles ahead, and they continue to do so. The game is stretching a little bit longer than the previous one. Right, last time Columbia College was wrapping the game up at this moment. So, in that sense, I would say that the gold lead, at the very least, doesn't mean that the game is over. The problem has never been the gold lead. It's been the advantage is taken, right? We haven't seen McGill take any kind of advantage very recently. So, I guess we're looking for them to do so, but without vision to know where people are, without the ability to track them through the jungle, they don't really know when they can actually safely go in or not during these fights.
But I also think making note of where this gold is also very important. The Vel'Koz notably less gold than the Fizz, who, hold on, watch this Fizz.
Could be dead right here, right now. There's one more ability and he goes down. Fizz, the problem with Fizz, he's fantastic at going in. He's terrible at going out. That's the real issue.
I don't think he's horrible at going out. It's just once he uses that E, if Jarvan has a follow-up, the Flag and Drag and the ultimate, it's one mobility ability against 2, right?
Yeah.
And so maybe you're able to slip away from him if he doesn't have the EQ ulti, but hold on, watch this bot lane.
Riven versus the Renekton underneath tower. Flippy Duck doesn't even have a chance to bring down Havaragi. Goes through it and out. And here goes pulling in the Olaf as well. They're still trying to bring him down. He will escape with the aid of Soraka, but all of a sudden the game just looks Columbia College favored, and this is starting to get a lot scary, right? Now, the Baron, if they manage to secure
It looks
this,
like they're just baiting it out. They're waiting. Ooh,
double
nope.
Infernal, I mean, it's going to be a really, really, really hard time to stop it. They have to look for a steal. They don't have the Nunu this time. Ezreal dodges out the ultimate. Not for long. The flash forward by Soraka to try and heal her AD carry. He is still alive, but that's not going to be the case anymore because the teleport is coming in. They have that Renekton. They chase them off the Baron play, bring down the blue buff, and then rotate back to the big worm to get another crack at this objective. This time around, though, there's going to be no McGill to stop them.
Yeah. A bit of a misexecution mechanically by Columbia College's skill shot's not connecting. You can never reliably say it's going to hit 100%. But some of the Thresh positioning and Vel'Koz, he was so-so. But in the end, Oh, hold on. The Exceed trying to stop it, but
He's in, but he might get one. The question is, what can he do past the first kill? The answer
and I
is,
think he's gonna drop to the Ignite.
yeah, he will. In fact, the Exceed goes down. He didn't get much for his engagement. He got the Charmer, but that's really about it. The 2 and 5 Vel'Koz is just not a good enough pick at this point. He needed the Baron more importantly, and the fact that he didn't get that means that this is now going to be an incredibly difficult task, right? They were already on the ropes. They were already getting, you know, the short end of the stick. But the gold lead has now just blossomed. It's bloomed for Columbia College, and with Lucian to contend with Renekton winning side lanes, with their Riven not being able to split, McGill are running out of options. They need a miracle to come back.
Yeah, way before the constant person dying over and over again that was happening with that Baron dance. There was also the situation where I was talking about the gold spread and how, yes, there is a lead for Columbia College, but it's not only important that there is a lead, but who it's on. The Renekton had a, I believe, at the peak 70 plus CS lead, and the kill advantage as well on the Renekton. And then there was the Fizz, who did have a kill lead on the Vel'Koz, and the CS wasn't horribly in favor of the Vel'Koz. And so that's kind of where we saw that gold difference coming from, where the Fizz has more gold than the Vel'Koz, but the Renekton, that means that this gold difference is more than just, it was just thousands upon thousands of difference in that top lane. And that's why we were seeing this Renekton just solo killing the Riven under tower. That's why it was so important that where this gold is the main thing. It doesn't matter if the Vel'Koz isn't too far ahead, because he's doing fine with utility and providing just a base damage that he has. That's why he's playable as a support, because he has pretty decent base damage already. The items are just, you know, extra damage to make it even better. But this Renekton, with the amount of gold that he has, is such a big side lane threat that 3 people are having to shadow him right now. They're trying to shut him down, but he's just out of there.
And with him being out of there, you look at that push bot lane, it's coming in very quickly. Columbia College is setting up for their first inhibitor take, and nobody's the wiser. There's absolutely zero vision here, so the first they're going to see of it, now the pings come down. Vel'Koz is there, but what can they do against 4 stacked members of Columbia College? They need maybe a pick, they need a miracle ult, engage, whatever has to happen, it has to happen fast.
No Renekton teleport. That is important to note.
Fizz is going to look for the pick. They have to go in here. They have to get the win. They don't. Could be all over. Forward to the side. Riven misses all. They're kiting around beautifully. Look at the spacing. Columbia College still managing to stay alive. And even though the Olaf has showed up, the Renekton is in their base. And they have already had to turn around. The Ezreal has gone down as well. It's 5 versus 2. 4 versus 2. They did manage to get the Vel'Koz, but one squid does not a dinner make. The calamari is only going to be the side dish, and Columbia College are going to be the ones taking the rest of this buffet home. It's going to be a very complimentary 2-0 to them. What a way to end the series.
And I think McGill University adapted very well heading into game 2. They had a game plan saying, we don't want to let them just have a split pusher ending the game. You know, they were definitely much more decisive too, forcing onto these fights. They were looking for picks, and that Fizz, the Exceed, showed very well in the mid lane. And I think the early game is where they shined. But again, Columbia College bringing that split pushing, bringing that, you know, just the macro game that they have into the factor, it just turns the table completely to them. And I mean, I think McGill did very well, but Columbia College just looked so dominant with their macro.
Yeah, they really did. And, you know, you might not need the best solo queue players. You might not need to be the best solo queue players. If you have macro like that, I mean, you can make up for a lot of stuff, a lot of mistakes. They made a lot of mistakes in that game number 2, right? McGill had a lot of advantages where they saw the Fizz. They sent him in. They got him a lot of picks individually. He was completely outplaying the enemy mid laner. But then it came to, what does he do with the gold, right?
Yeah, and you know, the Exceed just wasn't able to find the kills that he needed with the lead that he got. And or he was able to find the kill, but he would just die immediately after, or he would blow his cooldown when an objective was coming up. And I think those crucial kind of mistakes did drop a lot of the momentum that Fizz did have, and they needed him to shine even harder than he was. Exceed needed to kind of hard carry through this game, and it didn't happen. And so tragically, they do take the loss of the series here, but I think that there would definitely were some bright points for the side of McGill.
Certainly. And with that, we will be signing off for League of Legends for today. Now, keep in mind, this isn't the only C-Star League action going on. If you're interested in CSGO, that's coming up right after this, so stick around for that. But if you're interested in more League of Legends action, we're going to be here Tuesdays and Thursdays bringing you the playoffs of League of Legends. It's still going to be myself and MeowingCat for the foreseeable future. Whenever Corvus does decide to return from his vacation to Mars, we'll fill you in and he'll be back. But until then, you can follow us here on Twitch. You can catch us on the YouTubes. You can catch us on Twitter at CStarLeagueLol or CSLLol, I believe it is. And you can follow our Twitters if you want to do that for some reason. They're on the screen as well. But I would like to thank you very much for watching this stream and wish you all good night.